thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael. Today on the program, we're going to see and learn about Vermont's biggest trees. The state's Big Tree program helps locate, measure, and record the largest trees in Vermont. And for some species, the biggest tree here is also the biggest in the country. So we're going to learn more. We're joined by two guests. Gwen Kozlowski of UVM Extension coordinates the Big Tree list, and her role is the Outreach and Education Coordinator with Vermont's Urban and Community Forestry Program. And alongside Gwen is the Chittenden County Forester, Ethan Tapper. Good afternoon to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So Gwen, before we start seeing and learning about the big trees, there's a little bit of background about this program and the list. So delve into that for us for just a bit.
Yeah, the Big Tree list begins at the excitement and amazement that big trees bring to us. The original list was started in 1972 by Jeff Freeman, who was a professor, now retired professor at Castleton University. He started out with just 27 of the biggest trees, measuring diameter only. Then, of course, as the years followed, the list grew and expanded and aligned with the national organization American Forests for the guidelines. And that creates three criteria for measurements using a big tree point system with using the circumference, height, and crown spread.
So it's not just the biggest. There are these three measurements. We're going to go into that. In fact, we have a slide that shows how the trees get nominated and the measurements, and go ahead and walk us through that.
Absolutely, yeah. So the trees actually can be nominated at any point of the year by a landowner or big tree enthusiast. A photo is always helpful. And you can do your best with some measurements, of course, and we got some guidelines there on our website to measure the circumference, which is at 4.5 feet above the ground. The height is from the base to the top of the tree, and the crown spread is really trying to capture that tree canopy cover.
And you've touched on that, some of the tips, and we're going to share the website because it has all the information that folks need. Can people see and visit these big trees?
Many of the trees are located on private property, so they don't have public access. But in 2021, the Urban and Community Forestry Program updated the data collection system and created that website so that we have images and measurements online that people can see and enjoy. Trees that are located on public property have information, a GPS point, and directions on how to get to them.
And we're going to share some of those pictures today, of course, but if you don't have access, it's a great opportunity to go on the website and be wowed and impressed by these trees. Ethan, why track big trees? Why is this important?
I think that we're finding that big trees, they're these incredibly charismatic, exciting specimens, individual trees that in some way for us open up a world of forests, right? Because big trees are important and beautiful individually, and they're also what might draw people to love trees and then to love forests, which provides so many of these important benefits for all of us Vermonters, from clean air and clean water, wildlife habitat, carbon sequestration and storage, just living in a beautiful state. Most of the Green Mountains, what's green about them is forests.
All right, Gwen, there it is right there. We've put it on the screen. That's the biggest tree. Tell us a little bit about this big tree.
Absolutely. That is the eastern cottonwood that's located on private property in Colchester, right here in Chittenden County. I have it in my files dating back to 1984 as being on the big tree list. It is 127 feet tall, 302 inches in circumference, and a crown spread of 74 feet. It used to be much larger, but suffered some storm damage a few years ago, so it got a little bit smaller, but it's a remarkable tree.
And as we said, as a reminder, we're not talking about just the tallest trees, we're talking about the biggest. But to put in perspective, and I looked this up knowing you were coming in at 127 feet, that's just 13 feet shorter than our State House.
Oh, wow.
Just to put that in perspective, right? You noted Chittenden County. Ethan, as a county forester, is there some pride here? Do you rub elbows with your fellow county foresters
and say,
okay?
Yeah, it's always been a little bit of a competition between the county foresters to see who's got the most champs. And I actually remember, I have a story about when the first time I encountered the Big Tree program, I was actually being taken on a tour of the big trees in Windham County, where I grew up, by the then county forester, Bill Gunther. And that was one of the things that made me want to be a county forester in the first place. And now I get to sort of be part of this little friendly competition that we have between all of us.
Well, here's another point of pride that you can brag about, that Chittenden County is not only home to the biggest tree in the state, it's home to 13 other species of trees that are also the biggest in the state. And that might come as a surprise to people. Wait, Chittenden County has big trees?
Yeah, I try to convey that to people a lot, that even though we are the state's most populous county, that we're still a really rural county, and we have a working landscape, we have tons of amazing forests, and that's a big part of our identity, as well as having all of these other really important parts of the county, culture and arts and more populous communities.
Well, as you two know, and some of our viewers know, I live in Chittenden County. Many years ago, I measured and submitted a big tree to the big tree list. It's a tree on my property. I brought in a picture that shows this bur oak. Foresters have told me it's about 250 years old. Now, unfortunately, a major portion of the tree came down in a storm last July, and I have brought in another picture of what it looks like now. I'm going to round out the story by, no, it was not the biggest tree in the state. But when it was fully standing, it was pretty impressive. I want to point out that here in Vermont, to bur oak, so Vermont's largest bur oak is 76 feet tall and can be seen in the town of New Haven. We'll go to that picture next. There it is, the biggest bur oak overall. Again, because it's not just height, this is the 7th biggest tree in the state. And Gwen, we were talking about access. That's one that's by the roadside that people can see and visit.
That's correct.
So we saw the biggest tree, the eastern cottonwood in Chittenden County. We're going to go to the opposite end of the state, to Bennington County, to find about the 2nd biggest tree in Vermont.
Absolutely. So this is the northern red oak, and it really takes your breath away. It is located on private property in Shaftesbury, and it's in this really young forest. And then you come across the hill, and there's this giant behemoth of a tree that measures 84 feet tall, 87 inches in circumference, for 392 big tree points.
And I love the perspective. It's always helpful to have someone in the picture. It's like putting a quarter or a dime next to some of the smaller insects. Okay, I have notes here that the 3rd biggest tree in Vermont is a sugar maple, and I know unfortunately we didn't have a great picture of it, so we're not going to show it. It was in Windham County, I think you said.
In
Westminster?
Yeah.
Okay. So take us to the state's further down the list. Another tree that a lot of people know is an American elm.
Yes, the American elm is located on Middlebury College campus. It's right on Main Street across from Pepin Gym, so you could go and visit it. This has a height of 73 feet, 180 inches in circumference, and it's under the management of landscape horticulturist Tim Parsons on campus.
And you're reminding me there's actually a couple of trees on the list that are on the University of Vermont campus as well.
That's correct.
Ethan, American elms, they didn't do well, I thought, after the 70s. Is that an impressive species given Dutch elm disease, and what happened?
Sure, yeah, and I think the surviving elms that we have that are that size are surviving either because perhaps they have some genetic resistance to Dutch elm's disease, which is a pathogen that was introduced into North America or first detected in the 1930s and killed almost all of our large elms, or really good management, perhaps, for Dutch elm's disease resistance, or they've been isolated, so they're not near other elms that could have passed that pathogen along. I think that, if you look at old pictures of American elms, they used to line our streets, and they were certainly an important part of our streams and wetlands as well. And now, most people know them as, that dead tree in their hedgerow. Yep. Very sad story.
Gwen, we're going to run through a few more. Let's cut to the state's biggest apple tree.
Yes, that is located on private property in Wardsboro. And boy, you can see it produces a lot of fruit in that picture. It is one massive tree. It's got 53 feet for crown spread. Pretty remarkable.
And keep going, we've got another one, the largest crab apple.
Yes, this is located right outside the town office in Randolph. It measures 38 feet tall with 106 inches in crown spread, and this is the national champion for the crab apple. And Vermont also is the home to 2 other national champions, the sweet birch in Chester and a roundleaf shadbush in Chittenden.
Well, as we've noted, we don't have time to show everything, but again, for me, and another sort of species iconic to Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, species of birch trees. So go ahead and tell us about this paper birch, Gwen.
Yes, this paper birch is located in Hartford. It's behind the trail network on the Dothan Brook School. It is about 68 feet tall and 76 inches in circumference, so you could go ahead and take a visit for that tree.
And we also have a picture of the yellow birch as well, which is another record holder.
Yes, it is. That yellow birch has one of the best views of this beautiful pond at the Babcock Nature Preserve in Eden, and that is 68 feet tall.
I asked you, when I asked you to come in, do you have a favorite tree? This gets back to Ethan and how we are how we're brought into these discussions and to be able to see it. So you do have a favorite tree, and it has a neat story that you shared with me.
Yeah, big trees are a perfect fit for the urban and community forestry program because it's about that connection between people and trees. And my favorite big tree hunter is Don Lewis down in Rupert. He's in his 80s now, but he is determined as ever to find big trees. And he had called me up to re-find this ponderosa pine down in Rupert. And we spent a cold September day trekking around Merck Forest looking for this tree. And in that time, we shared the day where we were trekking around the forest, and he shared a story with me. And in the 50s, he was a grade school student, and he actually planted ponderosa pines on this property. And so when we came across this tree, it was hard not to get emotional. It was a reuniting of friends. It was such a magical moment to share with this person who really cares deeply about big trees.
And Ethan, we started talking about the entree into forests. This is the kind of story you hear about. This is why people are passionate about their woods and their forests.
Absolutely. You know, I think that loving trees is a gateway into taking care of forest, which means all kinds of different things. And sometimes, you know, confusing things, managing forests to try and help them be more resilient in the face of climate change, make them more diverse, protect our biodiversity, doing things even like cutting trees to protect the forest. Some of these really important and unintuitive things that we do to protect this whole ecosystem that ultimately starts from a place of just loving trees.
Well, if you love trees, as we do here in Vermont, go ahead and check out the Big Tree List and nominate one. There's the website. All you have to do is visit vtcommunityforestry.org, click across the top where it says projects, and it'll bring you to the Big Tree program. Again, lots of visuals, all the information you need to have to nominate a tree. With that, I want to thank both Gwen and Ethan for being with us this afternoon. A lot of fun for me, and thank you for sharing great information with our viewers.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit across the fence.